boxing, beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Lawrence Okolie pulled out of the Richard RIAKPORHE fight, scheduled for April the 5th at the Co-op Arena, Manchester. Lawrence sports a record of 21 wins, 1 loss, 16 inside the distance, a former WBO Cruiserweight champion and a WBC Bridgerweight champion. Richard RIAKPORHE, 17-1, 13 inside the distance. I'm guessing Queensbury are weighing up whether he stays on the bill or they get him a replacement. They still have time. Putting this card together hasn't exactly been smooth sailing for Frank Warren. Dillian pulled out of the Joe Joyce fight and he's replaced by Filip Hrgovic. TKV versus Adelaide, that's still on schedule. Touchwood. Also on the card, 2024 Olympian Delicious Ori makes his professional debut. And we will see the return of Mark Chamberlain, British lightweight contender, who lost to Josh Padley last time out. Padley actually makes his debut for Matchroom. April the 19th on the undercard of Dalton Smith, Matthew Germain. But back to Lawrence Okolie. If he's injured, he's injured. I have nothing in terms of proof to suggest any different. What I'm not understanding is how Lawrence weighed 199 May 2023 when he lost to Chris Billion Smith, 223 when he won the Bridgerweight title, and then put on 37 pounds within 7 months. 37 pounds. You name me one cruiserweight champion who went up to heavyweight and in his debut weighed in at 260. But no one seems to think this is odd. I think he's got an issue with either his diet or binge eating. I do. He looks absolutely enormous next to Richard RIAKPORHE. Absolutely enormous. Now, he had battles with his weight when he was a kid, and that's why he started boxing, to lose weight. And I think since he's had the shackles released of making weight at cruiser and Bridgerweight, and he's been able to eat a lot more because he doesn't have to make a weight limit, he's lost control of it a bit. That's what I believe. That's a lot of weight to put on in such a short time. It's a whole lot, especially as he's training as well. If he wasn't training, how much would he be weighing?
Boxing, beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Putting my money where my mouth was, not making money doing Broadway boxing, 144 shows in New York City, dominant promotion in New York City for 20 years, right? But they were downing me for being a middleman. Well, guess what, mother? That's what you are now.
I'm like, I don't care what I am. Do you not understand? What I do is I make money. I make the world of boxing go round. I have a fucking huge business that is one of the most successful sports businesses in the world. And whether I'm a front man, back man, middleman, I could not care less. People worry about how it's going to negatively affect others. Ha ha ha. Do you know how toxic that is? So you've got people out there, like Lou, who is actually quite sort of secretly happy it might affect certain people. Terrible mentality. Whatever way it shakes, I'm there. And I'm full of life, full of energy, and I will not be beaten. But if you think like that, then you haven't got to worry about who's doing what. I just believe in myself, our ability, our company, our position. And I'm unbreakable.
I feel not feel sorry for Lou Dibella, but what I'm not understanding is why is he in the mind state of, look at you, you've become middlemen. Lou's given up. Lou should be asking why Turkey has gone to this UFC guy to revive American boxing. Because that's all what this Super League is. It's not going to take over world boxing. America couldn't give a damn about taking over the world. British promoters like Eddie Hearn, they're different to American promoters. And we've got to keep that real. Eddie has irons in the fire in America, Britain, Australia, Mexico. Al Heyman done one show with Poxon and ITV, and they were saying, yeah, Al Heyman's going to take over British boxing from Eddie Hearn. One show, and it all fell apart. Do you think that country is interested in taking over the world? No. They don't have the focus to concentrate on another market when their market is in the shape it is. No way. History in the making. See, if you go from the 70s to 80s, you had Rodolfo Sabatini, the Italian. He'd worked with Bob Arum. He'd worked with Mickey Duff from the UK. Marvin Hagler, he fought on a Sabatini card co-promoted by Bob Arum. Don King, Frank Warren, America-British collaboration. You had the Yakaris brothers in France. They co-collaborated with British promoters and American promoters. Winky Wright fought over there several times, Tyrone Trice, etc. But these guys would never step on each other's territories because it messes up the ecosystem. And it's no different today. Those with common sense in the media across the pond, they've already outlined what is expected from the Super League. They want boxing back on America, regular shows, good shows, competitive shows, draw a line under the PBC pay-per-view pricing for a whole lot of fights that don't level up to the pricing. Some of Oscar's behaviour is not in line with how you would expect a top businessman to act. Let's keep it real. The difference between Oscar and Lou is Oscar wears his heart on his sleeve. Lou holds it in. That outburst by Lou calling Oscar, Frank, Bob, Eddie, middlemen, a lot of that was aimed at Dana, but he didn't mention Dana's name because it's a fresh wound and he didn't want to look like a hater, right? So he might see it as a victory, him saying, well, look at you guys, you're just like me, a middleman. None of us are winning. That's a loser's mentality. See, Oscar, when he heard Dana and the announcement of the Super League plans, I felt a little offended. But I'm going to move on, I'm going to do what I do, I'm going to take my company to this level. And then even recently, when he used to tell Eddie, go back to England, we don't want you here. Heart on his sleeve. He's not pretending that he's not mad that Eddie or Dana are in his positions. Because he's fighting. Now, a lot of what he says is misguided, but he's fighting back. He doesn't care if people say, oh, you're just hating on Eddie, you're hating on Dana. Lou Dibella's holding it in. He's wounded. And his only consolation was, well, you're middleman as well. We're all down here. That's a man who hasn't got the stomach for the fight no more. As long as you ain't winning, I don't feel so bad about losing. I'd respect him if he just came out and say Dana shouldn't be in that position there. It's disrespectful to guys like me after all the work I've put in. I'd respect that more. But he hasn't got the heart to do that. Lou felt comfortable to tell the world that, look, we're all no-hopers. We're all middlemen. He felt comfortable. You know why? Because he's got a bunch of enablers who think exactly like that. Who are the enablers?
So you've got people out there, like Lou, who is actually quite sort of secretly happy. It might affect certain people. Terrible mentality.
Lou Dibella tried to make it look like a flex, calling them promoters middlemen when they have full promotional rosters, network deals, and fight dates. What do they call that today? Is that coping? That's coping. And he feels comfortable saying what he's saying like I'm saying because there's a bunch of enablers out there. Bunch of enablers who would tell you that successful people are failing. Tell you what though, Bob Arum, Frank Warren, Oscar De La Hoya or Eddie Hearn ain't going to him to get fight dates. In fact, he's going to Eddie Hearn to get George Cambosa's fight dates. So who's really the middleman? But he's saying they're all at the same level as him. So he must be journeyman level middleman.
In the middle. In the middle.
Edgar Berlanga was a pound and 6 ounces over the contracted 168 weight limit for his fight against Jonathan Gonzalez. He's got 2 hours to get it off to fight for these lower tier WBO belts. We'll see if he bothers or not. It looks like Edgar is a little unfocused. He's complaining about being on the undercard in Florida tomorrow where Ammo Williams headlines. When, you know, you should be focused on making weight and fighting right now. Like, if he was complaining about his purse, I couldn't even argue with that. But you're complaining about headlining or being on the undercard? Well, this is his last fight with Matchroom. He's not going to re-sign. He wants to be a free agent. But who doesn't in this climate? He wants to negotiate his own deals with Turkey. He's blaming Eddie Hearn for not getting a Williams Skull fight. I think Skull wanted 1.5. I don't know what happened. Obviously, Skull is fighting Canelo now. Eddie Hearn has said there's a clause in Edgar's contract that if he lost to Canelo, he would give him a comeback fight on an undercard. Edgar's not bothered about fine print details. He wants out. He's angry with Eddie Hearn. I don't think Eddie Hearn did a bad job getting him the Canelo fight. Canelo washed him on the scorecards. They seemed cordial at the weigh-in. Berlanga shook Eddie Hearn's hand. Eddie Hearn is claiming they made over $3 million in 3 fights, including the Canelo fight, while he's been with Matchroom, which isn't bad. His opponent, either Puerto Rican or of Puerto Rican descent. Berlanga is of Puerto Rican descent. Doesn't appear to be in the best condition. Looks a weight class smaller than Berlanga. But Edgar, you know, if he's tight at the weight, if he chooses to go for and make the weight, rather than pay any excess penalties. If he's not focused on the job at hand, that could be all the underdog needs to give him a difficult night in there. And that's the last thing he really needs. This isn't supposed to be a tough fight. At super welter, highly touted OMARI Jones, standout amateur. New Matchroom signing makes his debut. Jermaine Ortiz, he's on the card. Isn't he a top-ranked fighter? Maybe he's out of contract. JALIL Hackett, Matchroom welterweight, is forced out of his fight with Jose Roman Vasquez, which was going to be a rematch. Vasquez upset Hackett last time out, last December on the undercard of Paro Matthias. They're saying he slipped in the sauna, turning his ankle. What was he doing in the sauna? Was he struggling to make weight? And Ammo Williams takes on a 19-1, 13 inside the distance Canadian, 35 years of age, Patrice Volney, in the main event. This will be Williams' second fight since losing to Hamza Shiraz last year, losing his unbeaten record. He looked crazy at the weigh-in, not uncommon with Austin Ammo Williams, jumping up and down, intensely staring at his opponent. Eddie was saying Volney was world class. I can't see him ranked in any of the sanctioning bodies. He looks quite a big middleweight. Probably a better opponent than Edgar Berlanga's opponent, who is undefeated in 20 plus fights, but he's fought as low as 152, 153, and you know what I mean? He's not a bona fide 168 pounder. 35, he's been a pro for 15 years. He started at welterweight, so I'm not quite adding up there. And unless Edgar was taking on someone significant, I don't see why he's complaining whether he's main event or undercard. Right now, this is a bounce back fight. Cleaner the whistle at my man Nick Bizzle. Nick Bull coming in like a pit bull terrier. Yeah, the more the merrier. Telling TJ DOHENY, we ain't not scared of you. We're ready. Ready to rumble. It went off, man. TJ DOHENY. 1 ounce over the weight limit. I'm assuming he's going to make the weight challenge for the title. Then it went to handbags, push and shoves. And yo, TJ looked pretty animated, man. He looked pretty animated. He's fired himself up. But he doesn't get my man Nick Bizzle too mad, you know what I'm saying? Frank Warren and Nick Bull's trainer, Paul Stevenson, will be hoping that the fight is not too chaotic. But while Nick is very exciting, one of the most exciting fighters we have in the United Kingdom, Nick is the dude who's going to get in them fight of the year contenders, isn't it? I mean, he's that guy. And as Joshua Boatsi would tell you,
I don't want to be in the fight of the year. I'm not interested in being in the fight of the year because that means you took punishment, your opponent took punishment, it went back and forth.
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, boxing fans here in Sydney, those watching around Australia live on Main Event pay-per-view and PBC YouTube in the USA.
wait, this was on PBC YouTube. It was pay-per-view in Australia. PBC YouTube. So what happened to Amazon? Amazon not offering up rights fees for PBC fights or even co-promoted PBC fights. That's crazy. Crazy!
There's some crazy shit going on, man. We about to be fighting on Twitter.
Let's address Sean Porter's commentary trying to suck up to the Australians. Oh, Jarvis, who thought he'd be here to be a counterpuncher? He threw one left hook counter, which was a good counter in the round. Right? But he started the fight, squaring up to Thurman, not even attempting to get off his head off the second line, and got caught with a massive shot early. And then after that, tried to rough Thurman up, went to the body, which was a good spell for him, and then he landed the left counter. But talking about he came there to be a counterpuncher, stop it, bro. Stop it. You know boxing. He was doing what he was supposed to, and that's trying to rough Keith Thurman up. The boxer who was looking for the counters, primarily, was Keith Thurman in the first round. Second round, Keith got on his toes. Then you started to see a bit of a class gap between the two. Good right to the body by Keith. Popped some hard jabs into Jarvis's head. Jarvis, no disrespect, more a bodybuilder than a boxer. Couldn't really cope with a Keith Thurman boxing and moving. Not that he was under any great pressure. I'm just talking it was a boxing lesson. Keith made him miss. Didn't quite make him pay. Put that down to ring rust. But you see, like, when you fought the likes of Danny Garcia at welter, Sean Porter, Manny Pacquiao, you're able to do things like Keith Thurman, even if you're a lot older. Like the first round, when he got caught up in brawling, that might have suited Jarvis better. Second round, Keith turned around his strategy totally. while Jarvis just came out the same as he did in the first. But you started to see why Keith was a unified world champion and Jarvis is just Jarvis, the guy who got knocked out by Liam Paro. They both exchanged body shots in the third, then Keith landed that big right. Jarvis had damage around the right eye. Sensing that Jarvis was hurt, Keith went after him. Nice combination, culminated with a left uppercut. Jarvis was on the floor. As the Australian commentary team said, Jarvis dug deep. He dug deep to get back up at 9. Obviously not wanting to let down the crowd and his country, his family. But that big left hook set him to the canvas again, and
That's all shit wrote.
Talk then turned to Tim Tszyu, who Keith had been scheduled to fight for Tszyu's WBO title in 2024. Keith withdrew with an injury. Tszyu returns to the ring April the 16th in Newcastle, Australia, against Joey Parker. But Keith said a Tim Tszyu fight is not finalised, and he was saying that Tim needs to get a W. Where has Keith really got to go right now? I'm going to assume that Tszyu versus Parker is going to be on PBC YouTube as well. It's not like Amazon are handing out a lot of dates, and I don't think Keith Thurman will be a priority right now. The PBC right now have been relying on No Limit for content. They're going to put up a purse for Keith Thurman. What are the PBC doing? If No Limit didn't offer him this Brock Jarvis fight, the PBC would have left Keith on the sidelines. That's what they would have did. I don't see why Keith is not committing to the Tim Tszyu fight. He must believe it's a fight he's capable of winning. Like, even if Tim is coming off 2 losses, he's still a more formidable fighter than Brock Jarvis. But he's saying if he doesn't have a better offer on the table, then he'll look at the Tszyu fight. In saying that, Tszyu is not in a position to demand anything, you know. Bad management hasn't done his career the best. I won't pay too much attention to what Keith Thurman has to say. If Tim Tszyu wins against Joey Parker, it's the obvious fight to make. Tim Tszyu versus Keith Thurman. Clear up the fight that was supposed to happen in 2024. It's a must-win for both fighters. Keith 36, you know what I mean? Like, no one knocking down Keith's door for big money fights like that. If he's serious about a comeback, commit to the Tszyu fight. If something else comes along, yeah, okay, fair enough. But just commit to the Tszyu fight. Build it from now.
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.